Hi everyone, I'm Heather Poduska, star maker to entrepreneurs who want to unlock their potential and command any stage. Welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a more abundant life and business. You are in for high-value content coming to you from industry leaders who are growing their business, making an impact, and rocking their brands. Welcome to the show. Here we go. Hi everyone, I'm Heather Poduska, founder of the Brand Star Academy, where I teach entrepreneurs how to be powerful, profitable speakers and create their own celebrity personal brands. Welcome to this episode of Thrive, how to develop relentless focus with my guest, Kassandra Vaughn. Kassandra Vaughn is a teacher, entrepreneur, and author whose mission it is to help people understand how to develop the art and science of focus so they can achieve their dreams and align their life and their business. Kassandra was such a great guest to have on, and she explained to us what deep work is. What does it mean to really focus your attention and go deep into your area of expertise? We tackled the question of why is it important to carve out deep work? What does it mean to carve out deep work? What are the benefits of focusing? We also talked about the fear of missing out. What happens when you do deep work? Do you get forgotten by your audience, or does it actually propel your success? We talked about the importance of aligning your business and your life in a way that is customized to you and not to the expectations of the business world, of your family, but to you, your soul, and your expertise. We also talked about how to set boundaries, because if you're going to do deep work, if you're really going to drive your mission forward and achieve your big dreams, something's got to change. Something's got to change. Things can't always be the same way. If they were the same way moving forward, you probably wouldn't get the results that you're going after. So how do you set up the boundaries so that you can do the deep work? And also, how do you set up your day? How do you set up your life? How do you set up the moments to really set yourself up for success, so that you're grounded and you do have a vision of what you want to go for? Because no clarity, no path. So this was a great interview. If you're someone who has a big dream and you're not sure how to get there, if you're not really spending your time in the way that you know that you should or that you could to be more productive, you're really going to want to tune in, because Kassandra had so many tips on how to stay focused. So I know you're really going to enjoy this episode of Thrive. And I also want to remind you that if you're someone who wants to be an industry leader, if you have a mission and a message that you want to get out into the world in a big way, you want to be on big stages, you want to be on podcasts, you want to be in the media, and you want to command the stage with authority and make an impact and have the influence that you want to have in your industry, I really want to encourage you to check out my coaching packages by going to heatherpoduska.com under the consulting tab. I also want to let you know that I will be launching in 2018 my Stage Ready Masterclass, which is where we come together small groups and I do performance, stage, and speaker coaching in a theater. We get up on stage, we talk about body, posture, power, message, story, emotional connection, and it's done hands-on in real time. So if that's something that you're interested in, stay tuned, check back into the website. The dates will be going up soon. Or you can inbox me right on my website and leave me a message that you're interested in doing that as well. It's super powerful. You get feedback from me and from your other audience members on how you can perform like a pro. Okay, now on to the show. I hope you enjoy this episode of Thrive. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Poduska, founder of the Brand Star Academy, where I teach entrepreneurs how to be powerful, profitable speakers and create their own celebrity personal brands. Welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a more abundant life and business. You're in for high-value content coming to you from industry leaders who are growing their business, making an impact, and rocking their brands. And I'm so excited to have my special guest here today, Kassandra Vaughn. Kassandra Vaughn is an author, entrepreneur, and teacher going from higher ed to life coaching. Kassandra's mission is simple: to help people master the art and science of relentless focus so they can laser in, commit to, and focus wholeheartedly on their biggest dreams. Kassandra, welcome. Thank you so much for being here on Thrive.
Welcome, Heather. Your intro just amped me up. There were so many energetically high vibration words in that. I feel amazing.
Good. Well, I'm so excited to have you here. And, you and I were chatting a little bit before we started about starting off the new year and really starting with focus and setting your intentions for your dreams and your goals. And that really aligns with you and what you're up to. So can you tell our audience more about your mission of helping people focus and why that is your mission, how you came to that?
Well, I think for me, I grew up as an overachiever, right? So there was never a question, you go to college, you become a doctor or lawyer, you overachieve in every single area of your life. And I think that works from about 0 to 18. But once you hit 18 and you really start to experience life and the vast contrast that comes along, you figure out pretty good that you have two choices. You can be a jack of all trades, or you can be a master at the thing you were put on this earth to do. And I think far too many of us spend decades trying to be a jack of all trades, trying to be a master of all trades, only to figure out that the things that we're pursuing are not actually our biggest dreams and desires. They're something that we got from somebody else. So I think for me, it was, I spent a number of decades really trying to master everything and be everything to everyone: wife, mother, entrepreneur, life coach, professor. And I hit a point in my early 30s where I realized, like, there's only so much life left and there's only so much time left. And if I put a little bit of energy into every single thing, it's not going to fulfill the purpose that I have on this earth. So for me, it was really hitting the ground and figuring out, this isn't working. This recovering perfectionist overachieving thing is not working. What will? And I really figured out that your power comes from your ability to focus.
So what was it that you focused on? Like, what was the shift that you said, okay, I'm going to drop some of these things that are diffusing my energy and my attention? And what did you really focus on in your life and your business?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, for a certain amount of time, I did both a combination of small business coaching and women breadwinner coaching. In fact, I was featured in a documentary about women breadwinners. And I started to realize that between coaching very new business owners, coaching women breadwinners through the dynamics of what it means to be a woman who's a breadwinner, it started to sap my energy. I just started to feel very low energy with every coaching call I did. And then I was also pursuing a master's degree at the same time. I just had a baby about a year before that. So between
Kassandra, what are you doing?
1-year-old and another degree, and then coaching in two very different niches, it just was, I got to a point where every day it was a struggle to get through the day. Mm-hmm. I realized that I'm getting through a day. I'm not fully present and fully in the day. I was like, something's got to change. Certain things have got to go.
Yes. And I think that's something many, many women can relate to. Many women, like you, if you're in.
Well, and I think as women, we feel like we've got to be it all. I think we oftentimes take on the weight of, I've got to be the best mom, and I've got to be the best wife, and I've got to cook from scratch. And, I have to be, all things to all people. And they're just, I don't know what it is. Brene Brown talked about it in Braving the Wilderness, where she said, there comes a point where she said, I'm no longer going to give up who I am to fit in with you. If I have to do that, I'm not willing to negotiate that any longer.
Right.
And so I think all of us come to a point where we're saying, I'm not willing to negotiate my true life's purpose for all of the little things that other people expect of me.
Yeah. And I think it's something that you have to teach the people around you to do as well. It's like training your kids. You have to say the same thing over and over and over again until they take up responsibility for whatever it is. Do you find that true in your work? Is that something that you help women do to train the people around them, or to show up in a certain way so that other people respond that way to them?
Absolutely. So there are a few things. Being somebody who writes books, so I write a lot of books, I oftentimes have people will say to me, well, I don't feel creative. I don't feel like, the creative juices aren't flowing. And I have to explain to them that anything that you pursue, whether it's writing a book or building a business or raising children, it is a process of mastery, and mastery is a process of habit. So there are two things to that. One, you've got to be focused enough to create the healthy boundaries that allow you to develop the habit. So those boundary conversations with family and friends, those, if I can't get 2 hours to write my book today in the house, I'm going to go to Starbucks and I'm going to get my boundaries there. But also giving yourself the space and time to do the deep work. I mean, I think a lot of people get very caught up in, I've got to respond to emails the second they come in. I've got to be on social media every second of the day. And the reality is that doing deep work is something that as a society, we're not used to. We're used to the instant gratification and the dopamine hits of every social media platform. We're thinking we've got to be everywhere to everyone. So I think, number one, you've got to know what boundaries are and what is the deep work you're trying to do. And those boundary conversations and doing deep work on a daily basis, they're habits. They're not creative juices flowing. They're not, do I feel like it today? They're, what am I consciously creating the space for in my life today? And there's a big difference.
Yeah, and I think that takes some thought, even the time to plan, to think about what that bigger vision is, because sometimes people get so busy that they want something bigger, but until you figure out what that is, you can't backwards engineer your actions or set, you have to know you want to be an author before you say, I need to carve out 2 hours to go to Starbucks, right?
Yeah. And I think it begins with certain strategies that become really important. So for me, one of my key focus strategies is I control the first hour of my day. So the first hour of my day has nothing to do with checking emails, nothing to do with social media, nothing to do with the pull of what other people want or need. The first hour of my day is consistently about me getting grounded, centered, and focused. And I think when you just take that one little healthy boundary step of controlling the first hour of your day, it literally sets you on a path for the rest of the day to guide your day and not let your day control you.
Mm-hmm. So do you set an intention? I mean, I know that you were talking about intentions and focus. Do you set micro intentions for your day, for your week, for your month? How do you do that? Do you encourage people to think about the big vision? What is the best way to, in your practices of establishing your habits, kind of get that focus engineered into your day and your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, it's a couple of things. Number one, the first hour of my day, and I got this from Tony Robbins, he talks about the hour of power. So my first hour is an hour of power. So literally, for me, it's sort of, Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. So I literally get up. I go into my blue chair, I meditate for 15 to 20 minutes, then I do ab work for about 20 minutes because I think physical movement creates that momentum to start your day. And then at about 40 minutes in, I say a number of affirmations that I say every single day. I write out my goals for the year in the present tense. And then I pull out my little notebook and I go, okay, if that's where I want to be by next December 31st, then what are my next 3 steps? And I micro focus only on the next 3 steps. Once I've written out where I want to be by next year, I don't think about that. I think about what are the next 3 steps to getting there. And then once I've done those 3 steps, then I can say, what are the next 3 steps after that?
Yeah, I really love that. So it sounds like you've mastered a lot of this and you've written a lot of books. Can you tell us about some of the books that you've written and the messages that are really, true and dear to your heart that you wanted to share with people?
Absolutely. So when I first started writing, I've been writing probably since I was 5 or 7. So I think I have the soul of a writer, and now I'm finally matching the habits of great writers with that soul. So when I first started writing, I noticed in my coaching practice, when I would coach people in terms of life coaching, that fear was the thing that kept them from taking the actions that we would design together. So I'd coach somebody, we'd come up with this great plan, and then 2 weeks later, they hadn't really worked on that. And so it wasn't the designing of the action, it was the fear. So when I began writing books, I really wanted to write books about how do you transform your fear into fuel. So a lot of my books are about that. They're about how do you uncover your real fears and get to the bottom of them and face them and transform them. Because I don't think fear is a bad thing. I think we are human beings that have fear for a reason, but our goal is to be a fear alchemist and to transform it. So a lot of my initial books were about, how do you go from fear to faith? How do you turn your fear into fuel? And then as I started to evolve, I would get questions from readers like, I don't know how to start over. I don't know. I'm stuck. I don't know how to get out of this rut. So for example, I wrote a book called Begin Again, How to Start Over. So people would have kind of a guidebook of everybody starts over at some point. Everybody does it again. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We evolve and we transform.
Mm-hmm.
And lately what I'm getting into in terms of my writing is really speaking to two things. One being self-belief, because I think self-belief is the core to anything you achieve. And the second one is focus. So right now I'm writing a book called The Focus Mindset Formula, which goes over the focus mindset formula that I teach in my course. And a book just came out a couple weeks ago that I wrote that was called Finding Your Fire, which is all about how do you, when you feel like your fire has been put out for decades or for years, how do you reclaim that inner passion, that confidence, sense of self-belief, even if the circumstances haven't changed? So I'm really big on believing that you can do the things you were put here to do, and then creating the habits that create the relentless focus so you do them.
Yeah, and I love this work because as a brand strategist and helping people become real leaders in their industry, finding that groove, I'm always talking about finding that groove. What is that hook that people are going to turn around and notice and say, oh, she's the leader, he's the leader, they're the expert. And in order to do that, you have to narrow and focus. You can't have 10 different things. But I find that it's sometimes tricky for me too. Like if you have expertises and skills in different areas, how do you help people, or how do people really understand, in your opinion, where to put their focus? Like, would you say for yourself, it sounds like you do a lot of writing in your business. Is the writing sort of the main focus? How did you kind of come to that? And how can other people understand and start to decipher and weed out the things that maybe aren't their zone of genius, even if there's, that zone of excellence, but not zone of genius?
Absolutely. That's such a great question, because it took me a long time to start to dive into those answers. So I think the first thing that I had to do is I had to overcome the idea that I needed external validators to make me an expert. I think before I needed that. So and I think as women, we do this a lot more than men do. I have talked to male entrepreneurs who've said to me, I don't even know what I'm doing in this business, but I know I can get the business and I know I'll figure it out. And then they do, right? Mm-hmm. I've talked to a lot of women entrepreneurs who, like me, recovering perfectionists, they thought, I've got to have 3 degrees and 5 credentials and go to 10 conferences a year. And then I still need to go to some workshops and retreats before I feel good enough to proceed. Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing for me, I needed to get rid of that limiting belief. And I needed to have some self-belief and say, what I'm meant to do, I have within me the resources with which to do it. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first step to me to really getting to the core of what I wanted. The second step was, and this is a little bit different than what a lot of business education might say, I had to ask myself the question, how do I want my work and life to go together? How do I want them to harmonize? Which is why I moved out of one-on-one coaching. I think a lot of people go, well, what's my fastest path to cash? How do I get there the fastest? Well, your fastest path to cash might not align with your life. It might not align with your family. It might not align with what you really, really desire. So once I said, okay, I'm going to get over this whole thing of being an expert. I'm a teacher and I'm also a learner as well at the same time. And then I said to myself, how do I want my life to look? And I want my life to be strong and vibrant, full of quiet time and full of opportunities to share my message with the world and teach people, but not necessarily where I'm on the phone 8 hours of the day, and not necessarily where I'm going to conferences all the time. Mm-hmm. So once I knew the way that I want my business and my life to align, then that got me to the point of, well, how can I serve in a way that does both? Aligns with my life and serves my tribe. And that's where the writing really became the forefront. So even though I create digital courses, even though I do the podcast that She Runs the Show, a lot of what I do is really about my choice to live a life where I'm not on planes all the time, I'm not going to conferences all the time, but still getting that message out into the world, still teaching people and coaching people, but in a way that aligns with life and with my own personal desires and goals.
I love that. And one of the things that I say all the time is there are no business model police.
Exactly.
No one's going to come to the door and arrest you if you don't do your business model in a way that other people do, or that, some guru tells you that's going to make you a lot of money. And I love that you're saying that it needs to align with your life and your business, because you only go around the sun so many times. And why would you create something in our digital world, in the world where we have so many resources, that is not customized to your joy and to your well-being? I think that you can do what you want to do. But I love what you're saying, because it takes self-awareness, and I think it takes courage and commitment and focus to really say that's what you want. And what is your feeling about this? Because I think that's where the fear comes in a lot of times. I know for me, like, I can speak for myself. Sometimes I have this vision of what I want, and there's another voice that says, yeah, but that's not how most people do it. Yeah, that's not gonna, you haven't seen that before in your business. So is that how you're going to make money? Like, all of those things come in. So do you find that that's like a layer of fear where people get stuck?
I think they do. And I think it's really important to understand that the fear never really goes away. I think a lot of people expect that at some point, if it's the right dream for me, if it's the right thing, the fear is going to go away. Fear does not go away for me, but I make sure that it stays in the back seat. It's not in the driver's seat. And that's the difference. If I can't transform it into fuel, then I say, you can sit there, but my acronym is, you're going to sit in the back seat while I drive this car, and you're going to SDASU, which means sit down and shut up. So for me, I just say, fear's going to be here. So that's our new normal. It's going to be there. But then I also say, I look for role models and people who have done business differently that aligns with their life. And I keep those people in the forefront of my mind to remind myself that, yes, it's possible. Yes, people can do it. For example, Joanna Gaines, who does the Fixer Upper show, I don't know if you've seen that show. Her and her husband do this show. Yeah. And I remember watching the episode where, I don't know if it was an episode or if it was just a kind of a statement, but they both came out, they were sitting on a couch on TV, and they said, we're not doing this show after this season. We're done. And they explained to all of their viewers, and their show is very popular and successful, that really their kids are getting to an age where they don't want to miss the soccer games. They don't want, it's really about their family. And the backlash that they got in terms of comments and people going, no, you can't do this, but their firm conviction that they needed to do this for themselves and for their kids. When I keep role models like that in front of me, it makes the fear much quieter and allows me to go, they're doing it differently too, and it's working. Yeah, I can find a way to do it.
That's a great point. Yeah, to find the role models and to emulate what you see. And I think that's also why it's so important for us to do the way we want to do, for our kids to see that it's possible. We're role models for people around us as well. You have a podcast, I have a podcast. Are we living in integrity with what we say we want and what we believe, and creating the kind of life? And it's not perfection, it's messy to try to figure that out. But I totally relate to that, because I had an experience recently where this summer I went to an event where I was at an event at Harvard where there were all these speakers, and they came from all over the world and told their stories of conquering challenges that blew my mind and inspired me. So I decided to do 100 video challenge, a video a day, every day for 100 days, and put them on Facebook, which was a challenge. Like, some days I didn't want to do it. I got up but I had this challenge. And at the end of the 100 days, I did a concert on live, and it was so much fun. And then a friend of mine said, you should do a live stream challenge, a 60-day live stream challenge. And so I was like, okay. So I started down this path of the 60-day live stream challenge. And by like day 15, I was like getting cranky, was losing energy for some of the other things in my life and in my business. And I was talking to someone, and they said, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. And I was like, you're right. I don't have to do this. So at day 20, I was like, okay, I'm done. Because it was pulling my energy in a way that didn't align with my bigger goals. So I loved what you were talking about energy.
And that's a really telltale sign that you're focusing on the wrong things. Whenever my energy feels like it's being pulled away from me and it's being diminished, and it feels like whatever the endeavor is, I'm pulled uphill, that's how I know that my priorities and my focus might not be in the right place. Because even though the purposes of our lives, yes, there's hard work, but there's a big difference between hard work and energy draining kind of task doing things. Hard work that is joyful, that's aligned, that is what you're meant to do. Yes, it's hard, but it feels amazing while you do it, but work that pulls your energy, that makes you go kind of into a space where you don't feel good, but you're doing it out of obligation. Obligation to me is one of the worst words, because it's not obligation that drives our purpose. It's commitment, it's alignment, it's all of these other things. So the moment I start to feel like, well, I have to do this rather than I get to do this, that for me is an energy check moment.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about the benefits of focus, because I think that this episode will probably air near the beginning of the year when people are thinking about goals. What are some really juicy, tangible benefits of really focusing your energy and attention?
I think it makes you, number one, more powerful in your ability to say yes and say no. If you don't have focus, then you're not really owning your yes or your no. You're saying yes to things that you should say no to. You're saying no to things you should say yes to. And you don't have clarity about which is which. So I think for me, the biggest piece of focus is that you powerfully own your yes and you powerfully own your no. I think the second biggest thing that focus does for you is it doubles your productivity. So when I do deep work, and I've got this big poster board in front of me that by hand every day I put the number of hours of deep work that I do. Number one, it helps me understand the fact that when I can actually focus, whether it's for a 30-minute time block or for a 90-minute time block, the more that I get in the habit of doing that, I actually double my productivity. So rather than being busy and divided in my energy and doing 10 things okay, I do 3 things amazingly well, and that compounds with time. So the compounded interest of being way more productive than you ever could have been, and you still only have 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week, and Congress is not adding the 8th day anytime soon. But doubling productivity to me is the second thing of focus. And the third thing of focus is really about maximizing your energy and your level of clarity and just spiritual connection. I find that if I am clear and I'm focused, which is why I begin every day with meditation first, no matter what, I find that I'm spiritually stronger. So the emotional gut punches, the life storms, they don't hit me as hard. I'm not down for as long. So the resiliency and the grit is developed the more that you're able to control and manage your focus.
Well, those are 3 incredible benefits for sure. And one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking about that is how sometimes when you are trying to get that focus do the deep work, I think it feels like, I know that sometimes for me, it feels like isolating. And there's that temptation to jump on social media, like you're going to miss out on something if you do the deep work, all the work. And I think that social media and our world kind of promotes that too, that you got to be on, you're going to miss out. Like CNN, there's always something new. Every single thing on the news is breaking news. Everything.
Exactly.
Right? Everything is breaking news. So how would you talk about that to encourage people to do the deep work, and what is the benefit, like, so that you're not missing out, that FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I know for me, it's a real thing. It's that pull of social media. Like, I don't want to miss out, but I need to do this over here.
Yeah. So I have a very firm belief that a couple of things. I have a very firm belief that what is for me will always find its way to me.
Ooh.
So my belief is I'm not going to miss out, because what is for me will always find its way to me. The other belief, and I got this from Tosha Silver. Tosha Silver had this amazing quote a few years back, and she said, if it's mine, I can't lose it. And if it isn't mine, I don't want it.
Oh my God, I have chills all over.
So literally, when I have that FOMO fear creep up, and I'm kind of like, oh, but I should. So for example, I have a FOMO fear about webinars. I know the power of webinars in business. I know what they can do for your business. I'm a person who loves to do public speaking. I'm a person who loves to do video videos. Me, I'm always in the back of my mind, something's going, you gotta be doing webinars, you gotta do a Facebook ad, so I have a fear of missing out of webinars. But here's the thing, I come back to, if it's mine, I can't lose it. And if it isn't mine, I don't want it. And there are certain seasons when it's time to do that kind of work. And there are certain seasons when it's time to, like in the winter, hibernate and go within and do the deep work. And so for me, it's a constant set clarity of, I'm not going to out on anything that's for me. And if it's not for me, even if I went for it, it would not stay with me because it was not meant for me. So I really help to deal with the fear. It doesn't go anywhere. I still in the back of my head go, webinar, you need to do a webinar, right? Never goes away. But I say to myself, what do I believe about my opportunities? And what do I believe about what season I'm in? And when I'm in that season, guaranteed that webinar will show up and I'll write it and it'll boom, be out there. But right now, if my is the deep work of writing books or creating a course, then that's where I need to be.
Yeah. And I love that because I know webinars are fantastic, but we have so many tools at our disposal, and maybe webinars are not for you. Like you have a podcast, you have all these, we have Facebook Live, we have YouTube. There are all these other ways of reaching our audience. And it's interesting how, not that webinars aren't an amazing tool, but how that one thing for you is like tapping on your shoulder saying, pay attention to me, when you have all these other opportunities to get your message out. So I love it, that where your quote comes in really handy. If it's for me, it'll come to me. And if it's not, I don't want it. So that quote is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, I think it's part of the reason for me of doing meditation and beginning the day that way is so that I can be grounded enough to know the difference between an inkling that is more of a keeping up with the Jones intuition that leads to inspired action. Mm-hmm. So for example, I know that the webinar thing is more of an inkling, like you got to be out there to stay out there with other people. Whereas when it's time for me to take an inspired action, like right now I'm creating a 7-day writing challenge to help people write an ebook in 7 days flat. That was inspired action. That was something that came to me. I wasn't pulling it. It was an idea that said, you kind of got to go in this direction and do this, and everything's flowing. So if you go with an idea or a concept and you notice that there are just obstacles at every turn, it feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill, you want to take a step back, get grounded and say, is this really my inspired action in this moment? Or is this fear of missing out, and the fear is kind of driving me to take these sort of actions so I feel like I'm keeping up? And There's a difference.
Yeah. And that's what I was starting to feel around the live streaming, that exact thing that you just said. And I was going to mention, I spoke at an event last year where Kate Northrup was one of the speakers as well. And she was talking, I don't know if you've read her book, and I don't remember the name of the book, but she was talking about women and seasons, like you were saying, that there's a time to go underground and let everything, sleep and nurture. And there's a time to bloom and there's a time to harvest. And that she goes very deeply into it about the cycles of the moon and, all of these things. But you also have a personal energy cycles, I think, of when some people get really low energy when the sun isn't out as much. And it's natural to kind of hibernate in the winter time.
And sometimes you have competing priorities. So for me, one of the struggles I had for the longest time is I'm an early morning person. Mm-hmm. And there are two things I love to do early in the morning: write for 2 hours or exercise for 2 hours. And for the longest time, I was struggling with, okay, what do I do? Do I exercise, but then I miss out on my opportunity to write? Right. And the reality is you've got to figure out what's my biggest priority and what's my best energy time, and how do I capitalize on those two things? And then if there's something else, like for me, Peloton bike, spin, and all of that stuff, how can I get myself to do those things at a less ideal time, but still get it in during the day? And that's part of that sort of, when do I do deep work? When do I set up focus? How do I schedule my day? And then my key thing is I set a life, so it reminds me when I have to eat, it reminds me when I need to be on that spin bike, it reminds me when I need to write. So I'm consciously aware of what am I choosing as my priority today.
Yeah, I like that. And that's something I've struggled with as well. Like, how do you fit it all in to meditate and write in your journal and exercise and, and do all the other things that you have to do. So I'm really glad that you spoke to that as well. And I think that it's what your priorities are. And sometimes one takes the other. And I think having a little bit of flexibility around that to honor where the season of your needs at that time, I think is really good too. So you do so much great work. And I know you said that you're not doing one-on-one, but if people want more of you, if they want to get in, you said I'm so excited you mentioned the 7-day writing challenge, because there's so many people that are like, I want to write a book. I have no time. I don't know how to start. Is that going to be launching soon, or how can people work with you now and get more of your, this great, I just love the way that you talk about things, this great perspective and these tools on how to focus and really hone in on their dreams so that their energy is aligned.
Absolutely. So first thing is, go to KassandраVaughn.com. That's typically where I put all of my challenges, digital courses. The Focus Mindset Formula is an amazing course that really takes a look at how do I develop the focus mindset from both a tactical, like everyday developing the habit standpoint, but also from how do I face the fears? How do I deal with the limiting beliefs? How do I have the courage to have those boundary conversations with people and say, no, I'm not going to be able to watch your kids 10 hours a week because I need to write this book, or I'm not going to be able to be available every single time and drop everything to come save you like I've done for 20 years because now I'm making these dreams a priority. It covers both ends of it. So it gives you the strategies, but it also does the deep work of figuring out how to believe and how to have that conviction so you can set this up for life, the focus mindset. So that's the first thing at KassandраVaughn.com. The second thing is the writing challenge is going to be up in a matter of days up on KassandраVaughn.com. So if you are someone who says, I need to write an ebook. And honestly, I am so over the traditional publishing route. I think ebooks are the way that they're going. Walmart will be getting an ebook aisle in 3 to 5 years. So you can anticipate that you're going to be able to get an ebook, rent an ebook, not simply through Amazon, not simply through Kindle, but in a ton of other places.
Wow.
Audible is owned by Amazon. So the ability to cultivate and leverage your expertise in the form of both a Kindle ebook as well as Audible is an amazing stream of revenue that becomes passive eventually, which is awesome. So the 7-day writing challenge is really, my goal in 2018 is to write 1 ebook a week. And so I figured I would break down how to actually do that, right? Like I've written 1 ebook a week for 7 or 8 weeks, not 52 weeks. So I created this challenge, 1, so I could use it, and 2, so if there's somebody who has wanted to write a book for a long time, doesn't know the first thing about how to put their ebook on Kindle, but really is kind of like me, wants to do a Netflix binge of the whole approach, and in 7 days write a 15,000 to 20,000 word ebook, I cover everything in that challenge and walk you through how to create your ebook cover in Canva, how many words you need to write every single day, what you're doing every single day. That will be up on KassandраVaughn.com in a few days.
That sounds so awesome. I'm going to definitely check that out because I'm like your ideal candidate right here. I have my book almost written in my head and I have notes everywhere and I just have to like get it down. So that I do well with challenges, and obviously I like to take them up as long as they're not, as long as they're aligned with what my dream and my focus is. So just a couple last questions, Kassandra. Now, looking forward, what is your dream? What is your dream like 5 years from now when you see yourself and you're putting this focus in place now? What is that driving towards?
That's such a beautiful question, because the dream of my life has sort of always been, in some way, shape, or form, to uplift and change people's minds about the greatness of their lives. I think it's amazing that we live in a time that is so for us, right? Especially as women. There's never been a time that has been more for us than this day and age that we live. Talk about if you lived in the 1800s, not really for you as a woman, or 1910, not so much, right? We live in a time that is for us, and yet we have children growing up who don't feel like life is for them, who get their only sense of connection from how many people like their Instagram post or follow them or are on Snapchat with them. So in 5 years' time, I really want to see, people focus on their biggest dreams with the self-belief that they can and will achieve it, with the structure of life where they've got the habits to fulfill it, and with a sense of being self-propelled from within. I think we have a really big issue. And Dr. Steve Maraboli, one of my favorite quotes from him says, I am self-propelled fuel from within. I pre other people's opinions, but I do not require them. I learned a long time ago that if you give people the power to feed you, you also give them the power to starve you. And so 5 years from now, if I could see so many people being self-propelled, fueled from within, that would be amazing to me.
Well, I gotta say, you have an incredible brand speaking platform, and I could see you 5 years from now spreading that message across many stages. So I'm just planting that seed for you now.
Yes.
It's really an incredible message, and one that everybody needs to, kids and adults, that they need to hear that as well, especially with social media. I think it's just, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful tool, and it's also saccharine for the soul. So, I think that's a really powerful message. So I want to just thank you so much. I love your message. I love that you are an example of the message that you are sharing, of finding your focus and making your life and your business fit together in a way that serves you and your dreams, and being a soulful, powerful voice in the world, and standing in what you believe, and sharing that on your podcast and here on Thrive. I really appreciate you coming. So one last question, Kassandra.
Thank you so much for the time. This is fun.
Yeah. I'm so glad we connected, and I'm so glad we connected. We connected through the School of Greatness, and one of my goals for 2018 is to live a more excellent life, to have more excellence in my life, and I think this is a great way to start with you. So I really want to thank you for being here. And one last question: what does it mean to you to thrive, Kassandra?
One word sums it up, and I actually heard this on a Lewis House School of Greatness interview with Drew Canole. Congruence. Being congruent with what I say I want, with the I hold, and with the daily life that I live. Congruent. That's thriving.
That's powerful, and it aligns with everything that you've talked about so far. So I love it. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, and thank you so much for making this happen. We prevailed over technical issues to get here, and it was well worth the wait. Thank you so much. And to all of my audience, I want to thank you as well for joining us. And until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hi everyone, it's Heather again. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Thrive. Every week we try to bring you people and information to help you change your life for the better, to grow your business, to expand your thinking, and to open your heart. If you did enjoy this content, I would so appreciate it if you would go to iTunes and review us. Let us know how we're doing. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. And if you found this information helpful or useful in any way, please share it on out. Let your friends and family know about Thrive. And finally, if you'd like to know more about me, you can visit me at heatherpoduska.com. Until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes.